The following is an exclusive interview with Alex CrazyAce. Listen right here and only on The Rush.
It's Toronto's only hard rock and metal show, The Rush, on VIBE105. My name is Alex CrazyAce, and joining us tonight, two very special guests from SOLARUS. We have Lucas MacArthur and Sarah Sacramento. Welcome to The Rush.
Alex, we're happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Where did it all begin for the band SOLARUS?
Well, I guess it would have began with me when I started this project back in 2015. We started just writing some songs, but I was trying to get a band going for quite some time. And just couldn't get the wheels spinning until one fateful night I ended up talking to Sean, our producer, who happened to be dating Sarah at the time. We met at the show, and Sean kind of gave me the means to put the wheels on the project, and we started getting it going and got a drummer on board, and then Sarah eventually joined on board as well. So that's kind of where it started. We put a full-length album together within about a year. Released that at the beginning of 2017, and ever since then it's been pretty smooth sailing.
So it was kind of an interesting discovery because, as Lucas mentioned, we met at, it was actually a Nightwish show in London. They were playing the London Music Hall, and it was a really interesting night because Lucas didn't realize that I was singing on the Borealis tracks because I do some occasional guest vocals with them. And we got chatting about music, and then Lucas and Sean got chatting about, bands and projects, and that was when they kind of, as Lucas said, got the wheels turning and really made sure that Lucas's project was going to be coming to life. And they had started recording, and it was initially going to be an instrumental project, just kind of a passion project for Lucas, but then Sean actually approached me and he said, hey, I've been talking to Lucas and he's been auditioning some singers. Would you be willing to put forth an audition? And I said, sure, absolutely. And we got that set up and I put in the audition. And then that was when Lucas came to me and said, hey, are you interested in, really spearheading this project and coming in with me and making this sound great? And yeah. There you go. From then it was history, so that's how it started.
Now I want to talk about the brand new single that you guys released along with the music video, which is called Limbo. Tell us about that music video.
Oh, that was a blast to make. Yeah, that was always something me and Sarah wanted to do. We're kind of doing this all backwards. This is usually stuff bands look at doing when they're quite a few years in, but the opportunity struck when a friend of mine, videographer Jeremy Trednick from London, at J Real Visuals. He was awesome, and we talked about putting a music video together. And I know Sarah had approached me and said that's something that she had on her bucket list for a long time. So we just got to work. We rented a space out and just let him do most of the hard work. To be honest with you, him and Nick had a hard time drumming that for 8 hours straight that day, but it was a really fun experience, and we were really happy to see the reception it received. Really positive vibes all around from everyone on social media.
Well, Limbo was actually a song that I had written quite a few years back. Actually, I was in college and I wrote it while I was in music school, and I had originally brought it to Sean Dowell, my boyfriend at the time, and I said, hey, I have this song. He said, oh, please send me this so that I can play around with it. And then we ended up kind of co-writing and co-arranging the song. We kind of kept it on the back burner for a little bit. We had fun with it. It was a great track to kind of discover how well we worked together. And then coming up to this next album, this new album that's coming out in April, I pitched the idea to Lucas. I said, hey, I've got this track. And Sean sent him the track, and Lucas was like, please, this is amazing. This is a really great, cohesive part of our message that we want for the theme for the album. And so that's kind of how Limbo started, and the meaning behind it is really just, I wrote it at a time where I was feeling very lost and not necessarily sure where my life was going at the time, so it kind of wrote itself. It was one of those songs where I kind of call it like word vomit. You kind of write it in about 20 minutes. But once the song was written and we kind of sat down with it, and we really realized that this is going to be a great point in the album to kind of go with our message. So that's how Limbo, that's how it came about. That's how Limbo was born. The message of the album, it's one of those things where it's a little bit up to interpretation, but the way we think about the album and the way we think about the songs that are kind of creating this cohesive package is the album really is about struggle. It's about the human condition. It's about how we overcome darkest days, and that's kind of how the album name came to be. Is all of these songs are various subject matter in which, you know, humans go through or people are experiencing in their lives, and it really just kind of draws a much needed attention to that darkness in people's lives, and it really kind of shows that you have hope.
Yeah, and lyrically, we kind of approached this one differently as well. Thematically, it kind of just ended up that way, especially because Sarah contributed a lot of the lyrical ideas to this album as well, and I'm kind of taking a back seat on that one this time around, whereas the first album was pretty much lyrically, you know, the concept musically was kind of all me just laying the groundwork and then just relying on awesome people to kind of touch it up and make it sound awesome. But this album is turning out to be really, really cool because you know, Sarah's brought a lot of really cool lyrics to the table that really are befitting those dark themes, those ideas of, like she said, the human condition, which is very, you know, very in keeping with the first album, because the first album was a concept album about actually, you know, it's a little personal, but it was a passion project of mine that was all about my aunt and uncle who are no longer with us, and it was a story about how she had died tragically and then he joined shortly after, and I wanted to kind of write an album that was kind of a story about, you know, eventually them kind of reuniting in heaven, because, you know, like, that kind of brought a lot of solace to me and my family. So it was a very, very emotional process getting that album done, and it's kind of cool to write an album this time around that's, while serious, it's a little less emotionally invested, so it can be more about just writing kick-ass metal music.
Amazing. I love the storytelling that you guys are putting into your music. It's absolutely fantastic. Now I want to take a step back for a minute and rewind the tape back to a little bit of some history from Solaris, and I want to talk about the name itself, Solaris, and what that means to you.
Honestly, I don't even remember how I came up with it. It just,
just sounded cool.
It was just, yeah, like it had a lot to do with the just the fact that there was some of like the logo artwork had been done for a previous band name that didn't work out. I won't say what it is because it was highly embarrassing. It started with an S, ended in an R, and that's why you kind of get the calligraphic, like, backwards mirror imaging there, and I just liked how that looked, and I just kind of kept everything the way it was, and then just replaced the letters in the middle, and just, I don't know, just came up with Solaris, and just what it is.
Well,
no special journey there.
Well, it's a cool name for what it is, so,
Thanks,
you know,
man.
Awesome, man. Let's talk about the very first Solaris show, which happened at the Coalition, 282 Augusta, which, unfortunately, that venue is closing down really soon.
It's a real shame, yeah.
Yeah, so, and you guys opened for Borealis, a band that's featured on the show quite often, actually, and so I want to talk about what was going on from your perspective on stage while you were on there the moment that the first song kicked in.
Oh, man. That was a crazy experience because, like I said, I started this project back in about 2015, and that was our first live show, and the way this project's gone is we didn't have enough full-time members to even consider playing live shows for the longest time. Me and Sarah were glorified session musicians for our own project. It wasn't until we got our permanent drummer, Nick Lange, on board, and he's an amazing dude, and then Mark Feeney on bass, who eventually joined, good friends with Nick, and obviously met through him, and it was just, you know, chemistry right away. And as soon as that happened, Sarah just reached out, just a feeler, just to reach out to Noel from Inertia Entertainment, and he was awesome enough to give us that opportunity. Yeah, it was amazing, and like right from the first song, it was, you know, the first show jitters were fun, but that was like a 3-year build up to that show, which was really cool, and we couldn't have imagined a better band to play it with than Borealis, because as we said, Sean, their drummer, our producer, Sarah's boyfriend, you know, he's played such an integral part in helping us get off the ground, and so that was just an amazing way for us to kind of, like, you know, return the favor, to just open the show with a kick-ass bang. And luckily for us, we didn't suck too bad. So
no, it was great. I was there.
We went really well, and yeah, it was a feeling like nothing I'd ever experienced. It was very emotional for me too, especially since we were performing a lot of the songs about my relatives that I said the first album was about, and my grandmother And my aunts and uncles made a surprise appearance, which was a little emotionally overwhelming when I started playing the song that was about that, and saw my grandma crying in the crowd. It was a very, very cool experience, and that show was more special than I could have ever imagined. Yeah.
Borealis and Seven Kingdoms were on tour together, and Seven Kingdoms was gracious enough actually to let Borealis headline the Toronto show, because that really is kind of their home stomping ground. That's really where, they're a very big part of the Toronto metal scene. So yeah, it was really great of them to kind of let them spearhead it. But it was one of those things where I think I was talking to Sean about it over coffee one morning, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, there's some venues we don't have opening bands yet, and there's a few kind of kinks here and there because of that's just what happens when you tour, I guess." And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of neat. So you don't have anybody to open for your Toronto show?" And it was actually his suggestion. He said, "Why don't you reach out to Noel and just for future gigs, future gigs, and say like, hey, we're here, we're available if you ever need a new kind of a fresh sound." And it was actually Noel that said, "Oh, well, you know Borealis, you know them obviously, so why don't you perform with them?" So it was a very amazing opportunity, and really, truly, if it weren't for Sean and it weren't for Borealis and all of their constant support, it probably wouldn't have happened. So we really owe a lot of our success, and we owe a lot of that good vibe to them. So we're very grateful that we got to open for them.
When are we going to see you guys play again?
Whenever we get a chance to play a show in Toronto next is when we are going to play a show in Toronto next. We don't consider ourselves in a position, nor do we want to be in a position where we're turning down shows. We are going to play whatever's offered to us. For the meantime, we got our new record coming out in mid-April, April 12th to be precise.
Fantastic.
And it'd be cool. We're hoping to get a live show going in London, which is kind of like the home hub of most of the fans. And since we haven't played a show there yet, there's a lot of people itching for one. So we're trying to put that together. And we'll have more news on that hopefully in like the next month or so.
Now I have a silly question that I like to ask every single band. What's the one thing you wouldn't go on tour without?
My guitar for starters. I mean,
well, I'd hope so.
Geez. I would definitely need my Pokemon game. I would need a Game Boy to unwind.
Which one?
Some OG. Red or blue, one of those. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
This is a very difficult question because I feel like I pack very heavy. So there are a lot of things that I wouldn't want to leave home without. Although fortunately, my instrument's built into my body, so I don't have to worry about forgetting it anywhere. I would have to say though, I have a collection of hats. I would probably take about 5 or 6 different toques with me. And fuzzy socks. Toques and fuzzy socks for the wardrobe department. Those just make me feel instantly at home. I feel very cozy, and it just would be nice, to wrap up a show and just put a nice hat and some cozy socks on. So,
where can we find Solaris on social media?
We're all over Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the main social media platforms. Our album's available on, through Amazon, through Spotify, through CD Baby. The first album is on all those platforms, and iTunes, of course, is the main one. And we are hoping to have our new album out on all those same platforms. We should, unless there's some massive hiccup. But like I said, Darkest Days, our new album is going to be out April 12th, and we're very, very stoked to release it to everyone. We think we've outdone ourselves on this one, and yeah, it's sounding pretty badass.
Amazing. I can't wait to hear the new album, and we're going to spin it right here on The Rush when it's available. We're back to the show on VIBE105. Don't forget to use the hashtag We're Driving the Bus. Thank you, Lucas and Sarah, for coming by.
Thanks
Let's
so
have
much,
some
man.
fun.
thank you.